beginning of the year, I went to a presentation in Chicago, which was chaired by Olivier Blanchard. And Olivier Blanchard was Chief Economist of the International Monetary Fund for 5 years, up until the end of last year. And that was about the that presentation was about the economic impacts of Brexit. And in particular, I was interested in a presentation by Andrew Lillico of Europe Economics. And in that presentation, he talked about the potential longer-term trade effects of Brexit. He pointed out that since the beginning of this century, growth in British exports of goods and services outside the European Union has been stronger than growth in goods and services exports inside the European Union. He suggested that by 2020, 60% of all exports of British goods and services would be going outside the European Union, only 40% inside. So what he said was that if there were losses in trade with countries inside the European Union because of increases in protection, they could be made up by free trade agreements outside the European Union. And in fact, in percentage terms, the improvement in trade that through those free trade agreements would have to be significantly less than the loss in trade within the European Union as a result of Brexit. So he thought on balance that on a 5-year view, Brexit would be positive for the UK economy and positive for UK growth. Now, based on a report that has just been released by the OECD, the short-term outlook, though, is quite different. Only 2 months ago, the International Monetary Fund said that they thought that growth in the British economy this year would be about 2%. Since that time, of course, we've had the British elections, and since that time, we've had a significant decline in business confidence. The OECD, in its report, has made the judgment that there will be no agreement on trade. There will be no trade agreement negotiated between the UK and the European Union by the time that Brexit actually happens in April 2019. And so therefore they assume in their report that Britain will become a most favoured nation under the World Trade Agreement with the European Union at the end of April 2019. Now, most favoured nation might sound really good, but in fact what it means that Britain will face a 10% tariff on its exports of goods and services to the European Union, but on the other hand, they'll levy a 10% tariff against European exports, for example, exports of German cars to the UK, which in the UK is the biggest market for German cars, will be faced with a 10% tariff. Now, that situation of the lack and the potential lack of a trade agreement by the time Brexit comes is weighing heavily on UK business confidence. And what we've seen is a significant decline in UK business confidence since the election. The OECD forecast that instead of a growth this year of 2%, growth this year will be 1.6%. And next year, that growth rate will fall to 1%. So what you've got is really a quite significant short-term slump in the UK economy. They think that once Brexit actually happens, growth in 2019 will recover modestly to 1.2% and will kick significantly to just under 2% growth in 2020. But the point being here is that even though the longer term outlook for the UK economy with the Brexit is good, the short term outlook provides us with significant problems.